Hi, welcome to the Gear and Graith Workshop, where today we're going to be looking at this fella. Apologies for the fingers today, by the way. I've been polishing, so my hands are a bit of a mess. So these are reproductions of a buckle from York. It wasn't from the Coppergate excavations. It was back in the 1950s, and the original buckle had been discovered in, I believe, the Anglo-Scandinavian layers. They dated it to sometime around about the middle of the 9th century. Um, Now, culturally, it's not like particular. It's fairly generic, basically. It doesn't have any like specifically Viking or Anglo-Saxon design features. It's kind of buckle shaped, with the main decoration being these lines that have been sewn into the buckle plate. The reason that it's described as Anglo-Scandinavian is more to do with it was that just happened to be the area that the layer that it was found in. Um, so it could be suitable for either Scandinavian or Anglian, and it probably wouldn't be out of place like a century or so before and a century or so after either, because it's a pretty generic shape. Now, the original, when it's found, I don't think it had any traces of rivets. I can't remember, but it certainly didn't have the tongue. The tongue had been missing, and there was a bit of damage around the tongue, which might have been where the buckle had maybe broken. Although the sort of the catch, like the little bar here, where the tongue folds around, was actually still intact. Now I've used copper alloy here for the tongue, just because it pops well, but equally it could have been iron. I just think it looks better like that. Now, I did say it didn't have any obvious design features. I obviously missed out the elephant in the room, and that's that this buckle is green. Now the green's a lot brighter than it looks in on the camera, than it actually is in real life. In real life, it's a bit darker. It's got this sort of jadey kind of like appearance to it. And the original was likewise dyed, and it's been done on purpose. If it just been next to copper alloy and the copper alloy had like sort of seeped into it, there's a saturation point at which it just wouldn't travel any further. You have, if you want to get it dyed like that, you have to do it on purpose, and it is quite tricky. I always get people asking me how I do it. Um, Closely guarded secret. But I don't use food dyes. I use this stuff here, which is actual verdigris. So you can't smell that from there, but I can get the reek of vinegar off it. It's basically all the scraps that I use for copper alloy go in a vat with vinegar, and that makes the verdigris. And then it's just a matter of getting the right conditions, and leaving the right amount of time for the dye to actually penetrate the bone. Now, how common was dye in bone like this? The answer is not very, as far as we can tell. So just before the Viking period, there's an antler comb rather, pardon me, an antler comb from Snartamo in Norway, um, and it's one of these ones that's about like 7-8 inches long. It's quite a substantial comb, I believe. And that's been the entire comb has been dyed green with verdigris, which would look pretty sweet. Apart from that, I think there's a pendant from Eastern Europe. Someone showed me I'm sure it was early medieval, on a dig over in Eastern Europe, and they showed me the picture. They found it on social media. Um, but apart from that, I haven't seen anything else dyed green with verdigris. I have seen something dyed with black. There's a comb and a comb case. I don't know if they belong together. They maybe came from the same workshop. The comb case, I'm wanting to say, is in the National Museum of Scotland in Edinburgh, and the comb, I could have this the wrong way around. The comb, I think, was found in Carlisle. I'd have to check with Adam Parsons of Blue X-Ray Productions on that one though. He remembers. Like I haven't actually seen it, but I think it's a trapezoid section comb, so it's like 12th century. But that had actually been dyed. Both of those had been dyed black, which meant that they looked like they were made out of jet, which again would look pretty sweet, and probably made in the same workshop. So as far as dyed bone goes, not massively common, but it is doable. Kind of social status wise, where does this belong? Same things same place most of material culture belongs. We don't really have an awful lot for the very poor. We don't really have an awful lot for the super rich, like the kings and the senior nobility, or the major aristocracy and the nobility. Most of what we've got actually survives for people that are kind of locally important people. Um, a lot of the Viking burials are kind of like community, like local community leaders, and this probably falls into that same sort of spectrum. But it does kind of put play to that idea that you sometimes hear where people say that a bone implement, or so, if it was made out of bone, bone's a cheaper material, because there's actually quite a lot of stuff made out of bone and antler that the material's like relatively available, but there's quite a lot of work in it. And some of the things are finished to a very, very high degree. There's a couple of bone strap ends, for example, that are pretty swish. And don't get me wrong, there are some pretty crap looking ones too. Um, value does not always just come off the material. So there we go. These fellas are ready for York, so I'm just going to give them the final clean up and get them away. They'll be coming to a market stall near you. If you want one of them in the meantime, please feel free to give us a shout, and I will sort you out. But in the meantime, I thank you very much for watching. If you've listened to me waffle on, yeah, like the video if you liked it, share it please, by all means. Subscribe to the video if you want to see more videos of me whittering on about history and talking about all these wonderful reproductions. So thank you very much for watching. Good night, Godspeed, God bless.